So UFC 310's co-main event between Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Machado Garry. It's a fight that's got the MMA world talking right now, man. And so what I wanted to do is I already dropped my full card breakdown and prediction video for UFC 310. So I will put that down in the description. So if you want to hear more takes of mine when it comes to the card, feel free to check that out. But I wanted to give this matchup its own specific video. And the reason for that, well, there's multiple reasons. Number one, this is just a badass fight. It's not often that we see fights happening when they should be happening, right? In the UFC, we do see that happen, pretty often. In boxing, we almost never see that happen. But right now, what really intrigues me is this is a number one contender fight, and this is two dudes who are undefeated. We got Shavkat, who's 18-0, Ian Garry, who's 15-0. Someone's always got to go, baby. And not just that, there's a little bit of extra spice coming into this one, considering they are both former training partners. They both trained together at Killcliff FC. But what I want to do is break down both fighters, how I think that they are going to, what game plans they're going to try to implement against each other. Because again, when you're former training partners, when you're both undefeated, there's some nerves going on here. There's also some confidence because you've trained with each other where you know that there's some areas that you could look to exploit. So we will discuss that. And then I will, give you my layout of how I think this fight ultimately plays out. But first, let's hop into Ian Garry. And when it comes to Ian Machado Garry, a couple things might come to your head. One, the dude's cringe, can't stand his personality, or, he's kind of weird, all those different things, and I got you on that. But what I want to tell you is this. BS to the side, Ian Garry is absolutely one of the best fighters in this division. And not only is he one of the best fighters, he's one of the best strikers in a weight class that does have some surging contenders in the welterweight division. And one of the things about Ian is he's coming off of a performance against Michael Venom Page to where it kind of had a lot of people talking because, he was like, I'm going to go in there and do this and that to MVP. And people are like, is he really going to stand in front of MVP? And he goes out there, does a little bit, starts getting tagged up on the feet, and comes in and implements a really smart game plan and just finds a way to outgrapple MVP, control him, take his back, and showcase what we really have never seen from Ian, and that was a very good display of offensive grappling. Now, my question is, yes, you've improved in terms of the offensive grappling, but defensive grappling is a very different ballgame. So that is yet to be seen, but there is no question that in this fight, barring Ian gets some crazy KO early on, his grappling is going to be tested in this matchup against Shavkat. But when you talk about Ian Garry, you got to see outside of the MVP fight, what you've seen is a dude that does a great job keeping the fight on the feet. He has outstanding speed, brilliant lateral movement, and has really, really nasty kicks. And I think that the kicks are the best asset of Ian's game. I know he's got some fast hands and he does a very good job of fighting and moving around on the outside. But the kicks, you got to really see that on display against Neil Magny. You got to see it against D-Rod. The way that he is able to chew up the calf, the way he's able to, throw a very hard kick to the body to get you to drop your hands to where he can then set up a high kick like he did to Daniel Rodriguez, who again was a southpaw. So it's a little bit different here because Shavkat's an orthodox fighter, the way he set that kick up. But I look for Ian Garry to attack the lead leg of Shavkat. A lot of what he tried to do or not what he tried, but what he did do to Neil Magny in their matchup. Now, I'm not saying Shavkat's Neil Magny, obviously, but I'm saying the way that he attacked that lead leg, tried to wear on that the base of Neil Magny is absolutely what Ian is going to try to do in this fight against Shavkat, because the thing is this. Ian has outstanding lateral movement, but one of the problems with that is whenever you have such great movement from side to side, yeah, it makes you hard to track down, but it also, guys that fight like that, like Izzy, like Sean O'Malley, a lot of the times they're okay being the long-rangey guy sitting on the back foot, moving side to side, having their back to the octagon, and not always having to be the guy pressuring forward. The problem is in this fight, if Ian just lets Shavkat dictate the pace and move forward and does not walk him into traps, Shavkat's a hard dude to gain the respect of, because if you don't hit him with something good, this dude's just going to keep mowing you down, keep moving forward, and set up some big shots, or ultimately get to a body lock, get to that grappling to where he can take you down and start fishing for some submission. So when it comes to Ian, the dude's got outstanding speed, great lateral movement, great timing, and we all know, we saw it, in his debut, inside the UFC, he has a nasty pull too. He's got a good pull counter, but outside of that KO, Ian Garry's not really knocking anybody out, right? As much as you can say he's a great striker, he's in there picking people apart. We saw what he was able to do to D-Rod, like I mentioned. But one of the things that I think scares me for Ian coming into this fight is when you watch the Jeff Neal matchup, and who's also, a guy that fought Shavkat Rakhmonov, is Jeff Neal's a very good boxer. He's got good footwork. He's never a stationary target. He's always moving around. I say Jeff Neal's kind of dancing in there. The way he fights, he kind of rocks back and forth. He's always got his hands up, very defensively responsible, and he cuts good angles. And the thing about Jeff, he's got good boxing, and the way that he can get on the inside and the way that he can make you fight his fight gives a long-range guy like Ian a world of problems. And one of the things with Ian is if you can stuff his kicks and get inside that range, he tends to struggle. We saw him against Song Kanan where he was landing some really good shots on Song throughout the fight, hung out in the pocket just a little bit too long, decided to exchange, got dropped. But again, showed a very good ability to recover, get back to his feet, and then get to separation. But you saw against Jeff Neal, Jeff was like, okay, I've seen this kind of happen with Ian Garry. What do I do here? I just got to get in the phone booth, make it dirty, turn this into a boxing match. And Jeff Neal had a lot of success against Ian Garry when he did that. And when you watch that as a Shavkat fan, you're like, okay, if we could get on the inside here and we could turn this into a little bit of a gritty type of matchup and don't let this be so clean and pretty on the outside, we absolutely could go in here and beat Ian Machado Garry. So if Ian Garry's going to win this fight, he's going to have to utilize the lateral movement. He's going to have to utilize the long-range tools because when it comes to Ian, like I said, the dude's fast. He's got good footwork, so it's very hard to just track him down and back him up against the fence. And Jeff Neal's a good boxer. He's a better boxer than Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's one of the better boxers in the division. So I don't really fault Ian Garry, in that matchup of any kind. But what it shows is Ian's been tested. He's been in there with some good competition. He's been in there with MVP. He's had to grapple. He's had to mix things up. And when it comes to the skill set of Ian, the dude is talented. Whether you dislike the guy or not, or maybe you're a fan, the dude is special when it comes to the striking. He's got brilliant fight IQ. He understands how to set you up. And in this fight, I think for Ian, it's going to come down to attacking the lead leg of Shavkat Rakhmonov. Ian has some nasty calf kicks. I think a guy that, he's a fan of is Alex Poatan Pereira. And, not only is he a fan, but he's tried to implement the same style of calf kick that Poatan has thrown. I noticed it back at the Neil Magny fight where he doesn't really turn the hips over. He keeps his hands up and out just kind of like this, distracting you, blinding you, and then bang. He'll chop at that calf without really turning the hips over. It's hard to pick up on. And the one thing that it will be on Ian's side is speed. So if Ian comes in here with a smart game plan, sticks and moves, keeps this fight at range, and keeps Shavkat at the end of his strikes, I think Ian Garry has a lot of success in this matchup. I don't know if he's able to finish Shavkat because we've only seen Shavkat finished or almost finished once in his career, right? I mean, he's got 18 wins, all of them by finish, but back before he got to the UFC, there was a fight to where he almost got KO'd, but was able to come back and get a victory. So again, another guy that's been dropped and shown that he is capable of coming back. But if I'm Ian Garry, I see that. I see the training footage of us kind of sparring around on the feet. I'm a lot faster. I'm more nimble. I got the better footwork. I got the better arsenal on the feet. I got to keep this at distance. I got to attack the lead leg to make it harder for him to close the distance and plan off that leg to shoot for takedowns. I think if Ian Garry fights very intelligent, very smart, avoids the dirty boxing range, avoids the brawling, and can keep the fight on the feet, I think Ian Garry can absolutely win this fight. I don't know if he's able to finish Shavkat because Shavkat's a tough dude, but I think Ian has all of the tools to give Shavkat a world of problems in this matchup. And when it comes to Machado Garry, the guy can game plan. He understands, he's got a really good mind for the fight game, trading over at shoot to box. With Charles Oliveira and those guys, that his grappling is improved. My question is, what does it look like defensively? Because if it's not good enough defensively or it hasn't improved leaps and bounds, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And again, we haven't really seen it tested too much, right? Because a lot of guys, they've just been kind of standing in front of Ian to where in this fight, Shavkat's not just going to do that. So I'll be curious to see how Ian does against the grappling. But if it's on the feet, I think he's way faster. And I think that he is much better than Shavkat Rakhmonov on the feet in terms of the movement and just the overall skill set. But moving on here to Shavkat Rakhmonov. This dude's a monster, man. This dude's a monster. And like I said, you heard me say 18 wins, all of them by finish. I mean, say it again. 18 wins, all by finish. And the guys that he's finishing, I mean, spectacular. Going out there and getting a finish over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in his most recent outing. I mean, who goes in there and finishes Stephen Wonderboy like that? Just marches him down, shows no respect basically to the striking of Wonderboy, backs him up against the fence, closes the distance, and ultimately finds the rear naked choke. Goes out there, the fight before that against Jeff Neal, got tested. Jeff Neal's one of those guys, like we said, good boxing, good movement. He's a guy that can turn it into a dirty, grimy type of fight. And Jeff did exactly that against Shavkat, but then ultimately Shavkat landed enough damage, was able to get to the submission, and that rear naked choke of Shavkat, one of his best submissions for sure, goes out there before that, submits Neil Magny. When you're getting a submission over Neil Magny, I mean, I know people are going to be like, who cares if you beat Neil Magny, dog? Who hasn't at this point? Every rising contender's beat Neil Magny. That's still impressive to submit Neil Magny. I mean, Neil Magny, one of his best assets is his grappling. He's a tall, long guy for the weight class, and Shavkat goes in there and pulls off a submission. So when it comes to Shavkat, this fight is very cut and dry to me. He's got pretty good Thai technique on the feet. He likes to move forward. He's got power. He's got variety, because with Shavkat, he does have power and he likes to move forward. But one of the things with him is he throws these very explosive strikes out of nowhere. We've seen the flying knees, spinning back kicks, and those are some of the things that if you're Ian Garry, you really got to be on the edge of your seat for, because if you're not expecting it, you'll fuck around and get caught by something and get starched or get hurt to where he's then able to hop on your neck and submit you. So again, whenever you have the grappling advantage like Rakhmonov has coming into this fight, it just seems to make the striker, the guy like Ian Garry, who doesn't have as good of grappling, I would assume, because we haven't really seen Ian have to, defend a bunch of takedowns and really grapple with someone this high level before. So I'm just assuming off of what we've seen, Shavkat is definitely the better grappler. And if he's able to take Ian Garry down, it's going to be a problem for Ian, because not only does Shavkat have pretty good grappling, I don't think he has the best wrestling. I think he still has very good wrestling. But when he's able to get to the body lock, when he is able to take you down and he hops on your back, I mean, it is a real problem. Shavkat is not one of these guys like a Colby Covington or a Marab where he's just like, oh, I'm just going to shoot 50 million takedowns and do no damage. No. This is a guy that's taking you down, and he is looking for ground and pound, or he is looking for a limb. He's looking for your neck. He's looking for something to grab onto to make you tap, to make you quit. I think Shavkat absolutely has the ability to do that to Ian in this fight. My biggest issue with Shavkat is this. While he is dangerous on the feet, while he has the grappling that we all know he's going to look to implement into this fight, he's just stationary on the feet, and he's not the fastest guy in terms of the striking. And I know that that's not the end-all, be-all, but he doesn't have super fast takedowns either. So a guy like Ian, who's really fast, has really good movement, it just feels to me like we could be seeing a game of cat and mouse here, to where Ian's just kind of going, ole, ole, and kind of getting out of the way. And, every time Shavkat tries to close him down, he stings him with a shot, moves, attacks the leg, and starts to frustrate Shavkat to where maybe Ian can walk him into a trap. But I think if Shavkat comes into this, he implements a little bit of head movement, because one of the worst things about Shavkat is he does not move his head very well. He's a stationary target. He gets hit by clean shots down the middle. I mean, I went back in time and watched him against, I believe it was Cowboy Oliveira, who, he was a fun fighter in the UFC, but he's not world class. He's not top of the food chain. And he was landing some good straight shots down the middle against Shavkat. When you watch the fight against Jeff Neal, I know Neal's a southpaw. Good straight shots down the middle were landing on Shavkat. So I think Ian is absolutely going to look to attack the good, straight, clean punches down the middle. And if he can find the chin of Shavkat, he can absolutely hurt him. And also while distracting him by beating up the leg. But when it comes to Shavkat, I think that if he can implement the grappling, he's going to have a lot of success in this matchup. And I think that when it comes to the overall grappling, he's definitely better than Ian Garry from what we have seen thus far. And I think on the feet, he's not as fast as Ian, but if he comes in a little bit more defensively responsible, moves his head a little bit more, and doesn't stand at the end of that striking range, that perfect kickboxing range, to where Ian can kind of just stunt on you, stick and move, and get real comfortable, I think Shavkat is going to have a lot of success in this matchup. And that is why it leads me to, I think Shavkat is going to be able to win this fight. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think early on, Ian is going to look fast. He's going to look smooth. He's going to be attacking that lead leg of Shavkat. But the other thing about Rakhmonov, he has very good fight IQ as well. I know that he's not like a guy that's out in the media being like, I saw this technique, I saw that, I'm implementing this and that. But when you watch his fights and you see the reads that he starts to make and the way that he approached Wonderboy Thompson, that's a guy that's prepared. That's a guy that understands what he's coming after coming into the matchup. And I would assume pressure, getting in the face of Ian Garry, backing him up against the fence, attacking him with a variety of shots to make him cover up, shoot for a level change, take him down, and look to find a submission as Ian tries to work back to his feet is probably going to be something that Shavkat is going to look for, because a long, scrawny kind of guy like Ian Garry, sometimes it's hard to hold wiry guys down like that. And Ian Garry's kind of scrambly, he's long, and he's got good striking. So I think if Shavkat can get inside that range, if he can implement the grappling, find a submission, I think that's how he's able to get this thing done. But if it's going to go to decision, I think Ian Garry is absolutely I think he's going to win a decision all day long against Shavkat, because I think that he will have more output. He will land good leg kicks. He will pop the jab. He will stick and move and keep this fight at that kickboxing range. But if Shavkat can get inside that, I think Shavkat is going to cause a lot of problems for Ian Garry. I think that his submissions are just that good. I think his grappling when he gets to Ian Garry is going to be a real problem. And again, when you're worried about the takedowns and you're worried about the grappling, sometimes some of those shots that you just don't see coming open up, like what we saw when Kamaru Usman fought Jorge Masvidal. I'm not saying we're going to see a KO like that, but it scrambles the brain of the striker or the guy that is so worried about being taken down. So I think Shavkat is able to get this one done by submission, but if it goes to decision, I think Ian Garry is able to get this one done. And again, we've seen Shavkat hurt, so if Ian can set something up and land a good shot, I could see him possibly getting Shavkat out of there as well. Outstanding matchup, title eliminator. Winner will probably be taking on Bilal Muhammad. Love this matchup. But I want to hear from you all down in the comments. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Who do you think wins, Shavkat or Ian Garry? Subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.